Get ready to discover the hidden psychological truths about attraction, intimacy, and human behavior that most people will never understand. These aren't just random facts. They're insights into the deepest patterns of human psychology that govern every relationship, every interaction, and every moment of attraction. What you're about to learn will change how you see relationships forever. Because understanding these psychological principles isn't just knowledge, it's power. Part 1. The Psychology of Post-Intimacy Behavior. Here's something most men never realize. After intimacy, women crave continued closeness far more than men, who often just roll over and sleep. This isn't random behavior, it's evolutionary psychology in action. When women feel sexually satisfied, it can spark a cycle of repeated pleasurable encounters. But here's what's fascinating. This response is hardwired into female psychology for bonding and pair bonding reinforcement. Women who frequently touch their own bodies produce higher levels of sex hormones. This self-awareness creates a feedback loop that enhances their overall sexual experience and satisfaction. Here's a psychological principle most men miss. Surprising a woman with your skills in bed tends to work much better than bragging. High expectations often lead to disappointments, but exceeded expectations create powerful psychological anchoring. The psychology of eye contact reveals everything about attraction. If a woman avoids eye contact and looks away, she's likely uninterested. But holding eye contact, that usually signals attraction and psychological engagement. Here's a fact that reveals the complexity of female sexuality. For 1% of women, orgasm is only possible through breast stimulation. This shows how individual and varied female sexual psychology truly is. The clitoris is unique. It's the only part of the human body that doesn't age. Plus, a woman's orgasm lasts on average 4 times longer than a man's. These aren't just biological facts. They're insights into how female pleasure psychology operates differently from male psychology. Part 2. The Psychology of Communication and Attraction. When a woman asks, "How do I look?" Honesty isn't always the smartest psychological move. This question isn't seeking objective feedback. It's seeking emotional validation and reassurance. Here's a psychological truth about loneliness. Long-term isolation can make someone accept being alone, but the fear of being alone can hold them back from reaching their true potential. This creates a paradox where the very thing someone fears becomes their limitation. Sexual compatibility matters psychologically more than most realize. In fact, 80% of women evaluate it before marriage. This isn't shallow. It's psychological wisdom about long-term relationship success. Women aged 40 to 50 often experience stronger orgasms than younger women, partly due to physiological changes, but also due to psychological factors: increased self-knowledge, reduced inhibitions, and greater communication skills. Ovulation heightens female sexuality, increasing the chances of orgasm. But more importantly, it changes psychological attraction patterns, making women more selective and more attuned to masculine energy. Women love when others pick up on their body language, pointing their toes, playing with their hair, or standing close. These aren't conscious signals. They're unconscious psychological communications that reveal true interest. Part 3. The Psychology of Attraction and Behavior. Here's a wild psychological fact. With every heartbeat, the male testicles produce 1,500 sperm. But here's what's more interesting. Most people maintain close bonds with only about 15 individuals in their lifetime, based on first impressions. 80% of men notice breasts first, while women often lick their lips when talking to someone they like. These aren't conscious choices. They're hardwired psychological responses that reveal attraction before the conscious mind even recognizes it. Couples who watch adult content together tend to have stronger relationships. This challenges conventional wisdom and reveals how shared experiences, even controversial ones, can create psychological bonding. Here's a psychological principle about character judgment. To truly judge a man's character, watch how his friends argue. This reveals authentic personality traits that can't be faked or hidden. An average-sized anatomy is usually enough for pleasure. This reveals how psychological satisfaction often matters more than physical attributes. The mind creates the experience more than the body does. When dealing with negativity, you have two psychological choices: crush it under your heel or keep it at arm's length. Both are valid strategies, but the choice reveals your psychological approach to conflict and stress. Part 4. The deeper psychology of relationships. Women experience kisses on a much deeper emotional level than men, for whom it's often just about physical sensation. This reveals fundamental differences in how the sexes process intimate experiences psychologically. The dread of life itself gives rise to the dread of death. Someone who lives fully is ready to die at any moment. This philosophical insight reveals how psychological acceptance of mortality actually enhances life experience. Anger is a destructive trait, harming the one who harbors it far more than its target. This psychological truth shows how negative emotions are primarily self-destructive rather than externally effective. Women are more prone to romantic feelings after indulging in love songs or romantic films. This reveals how psychological priming through media can influence emotional states and relationship expectations. A man's attractiveness to women is heavily influenced by his mood, especially during ovulation, when a woman is more inclined to consider alternatives than at any other phase of her cycle. This shows how psychological states interact with biological cycles. Surprisingly, accompanying a woman as she picks out lingerie can heighten sexual desire. This reveals how shared, intimate experiences create psychological bonding and anticipation. Part 5. The psychology of modern relationships. A man's scent can captivate a woman, even sparking love. This isn't just pheromones, it's psychological association and memory formation that creates deep emotional connections. Women aged 30 to 40 often fantasize about intimacy and pursue casual encounters more than in their younger years. This reveals how psychological confidence and self-knowledge increase with age. For most women, peak arousal occurs when multiple areas are stimulated simultaneously. This isn't just physical, it's psychological overwhelm that creates intense experiences. Contrary to popular belief, women dress for themselves, not men. Their choices are shaped by mood, location, season, schedule, and available accessories. This reveals how female psychology prioritizes self-expression over external validation. Women who engage in frequent intimacy tend to have heightened desire and feminine vitality. This creates a positive psychological feedback loop where satisfaction increases motivation. Younger women may gravitate toward older men for the sense of security they provide. This reveals how psychological safety often trumps physical attraction in relationship choices. Naturally, women are drawn to healthy, energetic men over those with bulky muscles. This shows how psychological vitality and life force attract more than mere physical size. Research suggests regular intimacy may boost the immune system, but more importantly, it creates psychological well-being that affects overall health and life satisfaction. Conclusion: these psychological insights reveal a fundamental truth. Human attraction and relationships operate on levels far deeper than most people realize. Understanding these patterns isn't about manipulation, it's about comprehension. When you understand the psychology behind attraction, communication, and intimacy, you gain the ability to create more authentic, satisfying relationships. You stop operating from assumptions and start operating from understanding. The most successful people in relationships aren't those who follow generic advice. They're those who understand the psychological principles that govern human behavior and attraction. If you're ready to dive deeper into the psychology of attraction and relationships, subscribe for more insights that reveal the hidden patterns most people never see. Because when you understand psychology, you understand people. And when you understand people, you understand power. Remember, these aren't just facts to memorize. They're psychological principles to understand and apply. The difference between knowledge and wisdom is application.